A year ago at this time, Kyle McCord had not played in a college football game. Now he is a relatively experienced backup for Ohio State, at least one of the more experienced ones they've had here in a while. Nathan Baird from cleveland.com along with Stephen Means. We were talking to the quarterbacks and quarterback coach Corey Dennis today after practice here inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And just what's the vibe from Kyle McCord now that, again, a year ago at this time there was a quarterback competition going on, but by now people knew it was C.J. Stroud's job, and he ended up eventually, when he was healthy, being able to take that and run away with it, and now he's the established starter. So now Kyle McCord is the established backup with a pretty promising future.
Yeah, it's some clarity, as we talked about in the spring, but also it's just one less thing he's got to worry about. He kind of got thrown into a quarterback battle last year, and so there were certain things he couldn't do. He kept using the term, I had to play catch-up. I had to hurry up and catch up to two guys who are in the program, and then not only play catch-up, eventually try to pass them to win the job. Because if I didn't do that, I was going to be the second-string quarterback at best, and that's what ended up happening. This year, as you said, he's the established second-string guy, and so instead of focusing on what someone else is doing because you're trying to compete with them for a job, he's more competing with himself, and he's more focused on the development because he knows another quarterback battle is right around the corner, but at least for this season, he didn't have to come into this offseason with this, like, okay, I got to be the best I can be, best I can be, best I can be, best I can be every single rep because I'm trying to win a job. That's not the case this year, and you kind of see it a little bit. It's less of a stressful environment for him, but then also he learned a lot of things last year that he's still applying this year.
Yeah, and in the one time he did get to play, getting in for that Akron game when C.J. Stroud was out, I feel like there was a lot of probably self-imposed pressure there because you knew C.J. Stroud wasn't playing that well because he'd been hurt, and the opportunity was there if you go in and just really light it up, and he was fine. But it showed, I think, kind of the disparity there was between the two of them at that time. And now, I agree, like McCord all along was a guy that when they brought him in, 2023 was always ahead of him. Now, again, the Quinn Ewers thing kind of was a sideshow for a little while. But Kyle McCord, from the time that he committed to Ohio State, you could always pinpoint that 2023 season as maybe being the year for him to take over, and not just take over, like he's getting behind the machine or behind the wheel of a Ferrari there, right? It's not just a minivan. It's like you're going to have one of the best collections of talent in college football next year, and he could be the guy to do that. I think this is a big year of development for him. I'll be interested to see how much they get him into some games and get him that opportunity. Obviously, some of that depends on what happens with the team and just the opportunities they create. But I think they do need to kind of get him in the flow and let him have some success in some games this year to just sort of keep he'll keep developing behind the scenes, but also just sort of building the confidence that he'll want to have when that 2023 season starts.
Yeah, I think the one thing I do want to see is that kid's got a really strong arm, and guys with strong arms like that are typically gunslingers. And we saw that, the good and the bad at times last year with some of those picks and then some of those better passes that he threw. And he had to learn. He brought up the idea of 2nd and 12, you don't have to go get it all back in one play. You can keep your team on schedule. You can take what's given to you, and that's something he's had to learn that maybe CJ came here with because the style of quarterback he is. Kyle McCord's mindset is a little bit more like Justin Fields, where I'm trying to make the biggest play possible. So that's the one thing I want to see when we do get to see him, whether it's the Arkansas State game or the Toledo game or the second half of Big Ten blowouts. When we get to see him, what parts of his game are developing, I'm going to be watching closely on that part because that's going to matter next year.
Yeah, it should be a more mature game from him this year, and we'll see him when we see him. But hopefully by the Arkansas State game, but or early on the season, but we'll see. Much more to discuss about that and all the other quarterbacks on Buckeye Talk. Get that wherever you can find podcasts, and get the text 614-350-3315.